Welcome to Attican Plays, Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to part 8 of our second playthrough of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. And we've skipped ahead in time some because I had another part 8 all in the can, so to speak. At least I had recorded it and done the voiceovers and had everything ready. And I was going through editing it, to cut out the interruptions and the phone calls and the rude noises that I make and whatever. And I fell asleep while editing it, and I thought, if it's that boring, I'm not going to wish it on anyone else. So we're just going to jump ahead. I'm going to show you how it turned out. At the end of the last episode, we were about ready to build all our piping. We were saving money to build the piping and finish off our oil field. I'll show you how that turned out and what it's done for us. And I've seen several interesting things since then that I want to share with you. And I want to experiment a little bit with how we can make them better. So decided to take advantage, or at least to use some of this coal ore, because our mine, as Matthias, I'm just going to call him Matt. I'm not sure how to properly say his name, but Matt noted that, to really estimate how many people you need for a little community to support coal mining, you need to kind of build the mine first and see the yield. And then once you know the yield, that's going to tell you what your maximum amount of coal ore that you could produce, and that tells you what you can do with everything else. But as I pointed out to Matt, I'm really hoping to use that coal for many more things. And I thought, in the meantime, until we get to the point where we're building more power plants or steel mill or whatever, we're going to export some coal. So I set up an extra outlet coming out of the ore processing, running over like this, going into an aggregate store that holds coal. And then I set up an aggregate loading train station and had a couple of trains running on it. I built track up here like this that joins in with our other system up here where we've been delivering food. And then I put a fuel station out here so that it can get fueled. I thought this would be a logical place to put one so that anybody else who's coming into Karadabag could use that fuel station. I've got a tank truck running oil out there so that it stays full of oil, and we're using the fuel that we're creating. And I wanted to show you this. This is a result of the new changes they just did, the signals. So let's go into signal mode here, and I can show you. Notice here that we now have a chain signal coming into this intersection, and we can use all 3 tracks here in Karadabag. And this is such a simple way to do this compared to all the amazingly complex things I was seeing online of people who had tried to keep it from having any trains coming, trying to make everything one-way track, and there were tunnels and bridges and all kinds of stuff. And all you need is the 3 tracks with a 2-way signal here, and I'll explain why in just a minute. And you have a chain signal. Now that chain signal, what it does is it's looking down the track like this, and it sees its next block. And in our case, its next block is this whole intersection here. And so it looks in there and says, is there any way to go through that block? And if there's any way through, it will be green, or it turns blue and says, hey, there's a way through here. And the trains will go through and run. Now, when it's not in a chain situation where it's not, looking at multiple lines to see if I can get through, it acts just like a regular signal. It just acts like a regular one-way signal. So here you see we've got a drive on the right, and I think I pointed out that's a change. Yeah, I did on the other video. That's a change now. We're now right-hand drivers, which is the way they do it in Russia. So we're driving on the right, and we're looking in here, and we can go. But what it does is it's looking at the entire block. Well, without these, the entire block would be all of this through here and even back this way. and you're going to have to bear with me with my voice. I had a little surgery, and every time you have surgery, your voice just suffers for a few days. So, and before you ask, I'm fine. Everything's great. It was minor, but But I was intubated, so that means, voice doesn't work great. So bear with me. I'll do the best I can. So what you need here, these two-way signals, divide this up so that the block that the chain signal is looking into is only this section right here. You need these, and you need this exit signal right here so that this block is small. And the chain can look in there, look in that block, and if any of these are empty, it will allow a train to go in there. And then whenever they want to come out, of course, they'll be looking at that same small block, including being divided off by this one, and they'll look at this signal to see if they can go. As soon as they can go, they'll get on out of there, and that way you use all three lines. So that's beautiful. And the only thing you need here, of course, is the X right here. You need the three of them coming up. These are just like, think of this as just two tracks with a little add-on right here on this third one. And we've got the X here, and that allows a train coming in this way to go to any of those three. So it can go down the right-hand lane, or it can cross over the X and go into either of these two. Coming out, these two can just go right on down the right-hand lane, and this lane over here can come down, cross over the X, and go out this way. So that works beautifully, and I've had 2, 3, 4 trains come down. I've tested it. You can have many trains lined up, and all they have to do is stack up right here, and they'll go in, and you can have 3 at a time unloading in your station. So that's beautiful. Okay, so that's kind of a new change, and it works nicely. What else? So we've got the coal. We're exporting coal for the time being, and you see we've got plenty of coal. And we've also got, what else? Oh, and then Machik wrote back after I did that spreadsheet video and said that he was getting close to 100% or better efficiency in his refinery. And he used basically the setup that we used in playthrough 1 with his modifications to it. So I thought, well, if he can do it, he's probably a better player than I am, but just the same, if he can do it, so can I. So I started loading up this puppy with more people, and up to like 450, and I'm getting pretty good. I don't get 500, but I'm getting right up there. You'll notice the really good efficiency. We're really producing a lot from our refinery. And the way I did it was I built this little add-on right here. I built a whole new town using our little city planner from the spreadsheet. I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I put 10 large flats in here, some playgrounds, a school and a nursery, and a couple of bus stops. And one bus stop is set up to take people directly. This is the worker one. It picks up workers. It's set to be only workers. It picks up workers, and it takes them directly to the refinery to go to work. And this one is set up for only passengers. It takes passengers. It has a bus line over here to there so that they can all go shopping and cinema and pub and playgrounds and hospital and whatever they need. So these people are all getting very, very nice and happy. We're getting lots and lots of production out of our refinery, and life is good. So now back to the refinery itself. You notice it's almost full of oil. There's a train right here that has just finished unloading 700 and some tons of oil into our system, but it's already drained out, as you can see. We've almost emptied out our 3 tanks. So what will happen here, and let's just let this run. Now I want you to watch something. As if we keep up to a pretty high number of employees, and I see a bunch of people here waiting to go. We need another bus to come on up. Now I've got 8 buses running. I may even need more. There we go. There goes a bunch of them off to work. Okay. So as this thing stays up at its high production, watch what happens to our oil. Of course, we're using it very, very rapidly. When you're up to a high level of production, 390, 400, 450 people, you're using the oil at a rapid pace. Well, when it gets down to a low enough number, it's going to actually start hurting our production because we can't import it as fast as 470 people can use it. So we're actually going to get down to a point here where you're going to see this number start to drop even though our number of workers stays up. So see there, see that? down to almost 50%, and we're almost at 450 workers. So we've got to do something about that. Obviously, we need more oil, but I've got two big oil fields running, and I'll show you in a minute how well they're doing. But we can't keep the oil in there. Well, we've got an import set here for 100 tons, and it cannot import it fast enough. So we're going to have to help it. So I'm going to see what happens if we say you import 100 tons of oil. 102. And you import 102 tons of oil. And I forget if I told that first one to actually do it or not. Okay. So they're importing oil as fast as they can. And we're going to tell the other one if I can find it. I love the nighttime. Okay, come here. You import 102 tons of oil. So now look at what's happening to our production. Because we have 4 different things importing the oil, we can keep up, and even when we don't have a train coming in giving us more oil, we can still keep our refinery nice and full. And what will happen is that when our train does come in, we've got it set to unload until it's empty. So when another train comes from down here, there should be one coming along soon. Here's what's happening. They're both loading at the same time. So 248, 485. So when those are loaded up, they will run faster. And in fact, to help that along, we can even import oil here. Now you may be saying, oh, you're killing your profits, you're importing oil. No, we're just making sure that we have enough oil going on in our system that we can keep that factory completely full all the time. That's what we want. So no matter what, we want that factory to be constantly full of oil. Now this could be, this is a little dicey here because obviously our oil here is going to be more expensive. It's 20 rubles. I may back off this. It's 20 rubles per ton. And up here it is well, that says 22. Huh? 22. It's about the same price, so let's go for it. Now, there's some in these because of the oil that's coming in. Now, you might be thinking, well, aren't you counter? Here we go. Well, now we've actually got a train down here. See, it's unloading. Now we can keep this up to 450. So what's happening while this train is unloading, we're not importing anything from any of these down here. We've got enough oil coming in. And all those extra imports, see, it's over 100 now. It's up to 200. But all those extra imports doesn't mean you're importing more oil. You're just importing all the oil that you need to match the production capabilities of your refinery. So when you get that refinery up to into the 400s for people, and I'm going to have to take back what I said about you're doing great if you're at 60%. Thank you, Maciek. You need to be hitting almost 100%. So we're up here in the 440, 450, 460. That's pretty good. And our rate, that just means we're just making money faster. We're creating exports faster. These two trains are going to be running more frequently, and we're just going to be making more money. So good deal there. And one thing that remains to be seen is how many workers does it really take to get you to 100%? Because I've got a lot of flats feeding that industry right now. I mean, you think about it, there's 10 here, there's a bunch here. Now, a lot of people are siphoned off to work in schools and kindergartens, but just the same, there's a lot of flats. So I'm thinking it's more than a 3-to-1 ratio. And I think it's because if we look at the cycle that these people go through, there are delays between when their free time starts, when they finish work and when their free time actually starts. So 16 hours, there's a delay. I've never measured it, but it's a fairly significant delay. So I'm thinking we may need to bump up to a 4-to-1 ratio or something like that to actually max out our production. And I did bring a bunch of people in over here, so we're getting higher food production as well, and we're starting to see some good things happening here. So while our goal, of course, was to eliminate the oil imports, we still want to import that oil if it means we can export it at a profit and we can keep that efficient factory working near up here in the high percentages of efficiency. We can keep that 450 going all the time. That is much, much better. Okay. Aha! Look at that. We've got some brownouts. Now, why do we have brownouts? We are now drawing more power. Oh, and again, part of what's happening here is because I've bumped up the people and getting more people into the food factory, it's drawing more power. So it's coming closer to drawing its full power, especially at night when everything else is going on. So we need to give it more, maybe another substation, another line. And the key is we need to give it, to stop a brownout, we need to give it a whole new line. We can't just run more, we can't like split. We can't do a split off of an existing medium line. Like if we split right here and ran a substation in here, that would not necessarily help us because there's only 2.2 of megawatts capability on this line. So we need to run a new line off of a transformer. Let me see if we've got one available. It doesn't look like it. So what we're going to need to do is split off of a high power line, or maybe is that the transformer right there? Does it have any empty slots? It does. It's got a couple. They're very awkward. I'll have to work on one of you who's a good city planner. I'm not a city builder, guys. I don't play city builder games, so this is all new to me, how to plan these cities. But I mean, this is getting awful in terms of all these wires going every which way. And see, I've already put another, look at that, there's two substations there, and we'll put a third one here because this is where we're getting the brownouts. So those of you who are electrical experts, help me out here. I know enough to build a little guide to help people get started, but there's a lot to learn on this game. And the electricity and the planning for it is one part of it. Turn that off. Ooh, I was afraid we'd crash there for a second. Bill from dollars. Where did that come from? All right, build that thing. And run our wire. If I can find the other wire. Oh, sorry, need to start the game. Okay, it has power. Let's see if that helped us. I still saw some brownouts over here. We have to work on that. And obviously we're drawing much more power here too from the refinery because we're keeping it so busy now, 450 plus people working in it. All right, so I told you I would show you the oil. I showed you part of it. We've got our trains running. We're actually importing some oil to make sure that we can keep up. Always have something there for the trains to load. But here we go. Here's a train coming back from down there with 700. It's just pulled in. Good timing. It has just pulled in. It's going to pump in 700 tons of oil into our system. And it will stay there until it's completely empty, but that shouldn't be a problem. There's plenty of room here. So that one will unload. We actually have now 3 trains running on this big long line running all the way back down here to our Molna oil field. So we've got it set up, and I did want to show you one thing about it. At the end of the last episode, I lamented that we didn't have an electrical grid to look at, a view. And as far as I know, we still don't. But I went out and started checking these, thinking, well, it's not doing as well. And this guy right here had no power, and I think this one had no power. So I had to add in another, it was this one and this one, I guess. But be that as it may, all these oil fields out here, which are some of our best ones, were not contributing to the party. So once I got that fixed, that really helped a bunch. But now we've got really good oil production going on out here in the field. We've got, as I said, 3 trains running, and they stay pretty busy. They get in there and get loaded and move on out. It does take them a while. And just for curiosity's sake, what does it cost to import oil out here? 21. So it's a little more expensive here. It's 21.66. What was it before? And notice even with all those imports turned on, look at our money. How it's just in the time I've talked, it's gone from 700,000 to 1 million rubles. So we're doing all right. We're doing all right. And why aren't these guys moving? Okay, all right. I'm almost happy that happened. That's frustrating. The only way I know to fix this. Well, yeah, that's true. Is delete that vehicle. All right, he can go. All right, bad design. I'm not using a chain signal to get to these 2 signals. And this train actually came down and tried to go into this track, which just sucks. It should not. All right, so here's how we fix this. We'll do it similar to the way we did the one up there in Cardabog. So I'm going to take that down, take that down. Now we're going to run this track. This is our high-speed diesel, like so. Go ahead and build that. And then we're going to put, let's see, we're going to put a 2-way signal right there. We're going to put an X in the front of it, if it'll let us. Okay, and then we're going to put a chain signal going into it. And we're going to put an exit signal, 1-way exit signal on the other side of it. And build that and go. Okay. Now what should happen is a train will come down here, look at the chain signal. The chain signal will see if there's an opening for a train to go in through this block, and it will go in. And when they're coming out, they will look at this signal to see if they can get out of this block and move on down their way. So that's something I knew was a weakness, and sure enough, it finally, the right combination of things happened to make it burn us. So let me go here and here to our depot and replace that train, because we need a couple of trains moving, at least. Let's see, this is diesel. We're running, I believe, what are we running? This is what we're going to run. Cargo tanker. And we're going to tell it to copy this guy. We're going to copy this guy's route, put it on here. Hooray, they fixed trains, so they actually work now. And we're going to tell this one to start and go. And no harm done, but that would have been a better design had it been done that way in the first place. So now that we can use both these platforms for loading our trains with oil and keep those trains moving. And that reminds me, let's go down and fix that at the other end. And I want some hotkeys. I want some ability to define locations that I can jump to. I really do. Okay. Down here, I think I have the same pour design. Yes, I do. So let's unpour it here. Okay. Why don't you stop for a moment? And let's get rid of that and that, and this is electrified. Let's run electrified all the way up Oh, come on, don't you be like that. Okay. Build that. Okay. Then we need an X in front of it. And we need a chain signal coming in, and we need an exit signal, a one-way going out. And that, by the way, when you're setting up any kind of even semi-complex block situation, chain in, single directional out when you're dealing with double track. Seems to work beautifully. And notice these here, because there's a train in here, the chain is looking ahead. This chain signal, see how it's blue? It's looking here, it knows that this one's red. However, it knows that this one's green, and a train could come in and go into that one. And that way, and if there's a third train, and there is on this line, third or fourth or fifth or whatever, they'll just stack up back here until it's their turn to go in. All right, so there, our train system just got better. All right, what do we want to do with this episode, other than just talk about trains and signals and stuff? Okay. I know for sure one thing I really like to do is get clothing. As we move toward independence, and I know a lot of you are wanting me to do construction as well, and I keep promising it, and I will do construction, I promise. We will add it in and we will start building. My plan really is, I think what I'd like to do is do clothing the way I've been doing it with the auto build, and then after this episode, we'll look into setting up a construction office with all the requisite pieces and parts and people it needs in order to do construction. And then I think what we'll do is build our university, our first university. We'll build that and the dorms and all the stuff that goes with it with our construction office. So that might be cool. So let's do that. Let's plan on doing that. And the other thing I want to do is see if we can't run, do we have enough coal to run a couple of trains for a while? If we're going to produce this coal, we might as well be exporting it and making a little bit of money. I think we could run a couple, and let's see if we're really set up for it. I want to make sure we're set up for it right here. Yeah, see, this is the same kind of a deal. This could potentially have the same problem. So let's fix this as well. Now that we figured out the right way to do these chain signals and using multiple tracks at a station, let's put our diesel. It won't go past there. Okay, give this a longer run up. And put our, let's see, we need the X in front of it. I'm not sure how that happens. That's got to be an improvement opportunity right there. And the thing of it is, when it does that, when it makes that mistake, it's very hard to delete it with the cancel tool. It just doesn't want to grab it. There. All right, so let's try this again. X. Sorry. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Come on, honey, don't die. It died. Okay, sorry, I'm back. The system did crash, probably from that weird track I was trying to lay. And what in the world is that track right there? Let's see if we can't clean that up too. Rails, cancel. Oh man, slow down. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. See if we can't make this a little smoother. Okay, let's turn off the auto build. All right, so what do we want? We need an X. Okay, that seemed to work okay. Buy that. And we're going to need a change signal looking into it, and a regular one direction signal to go to exit. All right, and we're going to need a two directional on all the tracks on the other side. So there we go. So now we should be able to run two trains, no problemo, on our coal line. And we do have passing lanes set up here, and of course it's double track down here, so there's room for the trains to pass one another if they both happen to be out making deliveries or coming back from a delivery. So where are we? So let's do, this is diesel down, and that end is diesel. That's where we're running this DR. That's what I was looking for before. And we want hopper cars. And we want to find our other coal train and copy its route to this guy. And you can start. And he's even going to make it all the way out because both of our trains are out running. As soon as that one finishes filling up. All right, so we should have two coal trains running now. And what else we need to do? Here comes our third one back. We got a lot of nice traffic going on here. This is great. All right, so clothing. Let's let it turn daylight before I start messing with clothing. And I didn't see any brownouts that time, did you? I should have checked it, but I didn't see any brownouts. It looks like our fix up here worked. Now that's just to me a patch. I haven't really don't totally get the electricity enough to figure out the total usage. If somebody knows how to do that or a good way to do that, I know SB Gaming suggested I build the power calculation into the spreadsheet, and I might just do that. But I don't think I want to try to track all the power. We should be able to do that in the game. But in terms of, calculating what your block needs, a new block would need, that we could certainly do. All right, so the good news is that now that we've got this concept of having these bus stations and flats built around the stations in school and kindergarten, we could build a new neighborhood to do our fabric and our clothing and our fabric and our clothing, and still take advantage of the city center. And we can put it pretty much anywhere we want. And I think what we'll do is put it right along here. Kind of makes sense. That's a natural growth of the city. So we'll build a block right in here for fabric and clothing. All right, let's hop over here to our planning tool, and this will give me an opportunity to show you some of the updates that I've done in the tool. I'm trying to build the tool so that it's more of an integrated true planner, that I can pick an industry. So we're going to think about fabric and cloth, right? So fabric and clothing. So let's do fabric and say, okay, if I select fabric over here, and I can select fabric and clothes together if I wanted to, it highlights them for me, shows me the ones I'm looking at, and then goes up here and figures out what's it going to cost per day for all the people that I need to support that, and I'll show you what that means in just a minute. And then it says, what's my net revenue? How much am I going to make? What's my trade surplus, or as capitalist pigs would call it, profit? So what's our profit or our trade surplus? with imports and the same thing without imports. And in fact, I want to change this right here while I'm thinking of it. Pardon me one second. Because I'm using net revenue. I'm kind of using net revenue and revenue in a certainly non-accounting sense in my own. So I want it to be clear that I mean whether or not you're using imports. There we go. All right, so what was I saying? So it does calculate your profitability. But what I've tried to do is tie together this screen, which is all our products and which products do we want to think about, and our city plan. So that our city plan now goes out and calculates all the workers that you need to support the industries that you just chose. So if we went back here and said, okay, I'm doing something that isn't an industry, I just want to build something else, I can still use the city plan. It's just going to have 0 workers, hooray, but it's still going to take all the buildings that I want to put in and calculate that out for me. So we could be doing like a university block or something that wouldn't have industry workers in it. Okay, so the idea is that the two tabs are really tied together. So if we look at fabrics again and say we're going to do it at 100% efficiency, we're going to plan for 100%, then over here it's going to tell us we need 300 workers. Now, just as an example, if we said, oh no, we're only going to plan for 50% because that's more likely at the early going, and it's going to go back here and figure out that we need 150 workers. And so and so. But what it's also going to do is add up the buildings that our support buildings that we need to support these people and keep them happy in this particular block that we're planning. Might be a startup block with a bunch of stuff in here, might not in this case. And then it's going to say what are your total workers, and then it's going to actually project how many babies and how many students are going to be dragged along with those people so that you know what your total population is that you have to feed and have to take care of. And this part out here, this projected need, ignore that for now. I'm working on seeing if I can make this even fancier. I'm not sure I'm going to. This may just go away eventually. But what it also does is when you import these workers, you also pay costs for them. So it calculates an estimated cost for that many workers. So that shows up over here too in your overall plan. So you can say, okay, I'm going to make this much. I'm going to have imports. I'm going to be making this much per day in trade surplus, but I need to make sure I have 125,000 rubles just to immigrate the people I need to work on this. And if I bump that up to 100, then of course my immigration costs go up because I got more people I need, because my plan has now calculated more workers, more babies, more students, more people I need, more apartments I need. You get the idea, okay? So what you want to do is pick an industry. Like in our case, we're adding fabric and clothes. That's what I'd like to do. And I'd really like to add fabric, let's say fabric and clothes. And then we're going to go to city plan, and it's going to tell us we need 540 workers. And if you add all that up with how many workers you need to support it, these are all the flats you're going to need, and that looks like that could fit in one of our big blocks with a couple bus stops around in the center, which would work out nicely. So we're going to need a kindergarten for that. We're going to give them a couple of playgrounds, local ones, and a school, and that should be enough to allow us to add that on. So that tells us we need 7. Now in this case it says we need 7 of the 150s if we want to build them like that. 1 100 and 2 20s. Well, 100 and 2 20s, 140. So I would be inclined here to just build 8 150s. I think that's the answer I'm going to look for. 8 150s. And it shows us what that whole group right here, this fabric and clothing, is going to cost us $300 per day. So that's how you kind of use this thing. And you could do, like if let's go back to an example just to show you. If we were starting up a fresh city, we didn't have anything, we would know that we would want to build a cinema to keep people happy. Eventually, we've got to have a fire station. Now, if we can use local or we could use centralized. If we use centralized, We're going to have the hospital either way. Kindergarten, and let's say four playgrounds, 2 local, 2 in the city center, and a pub for sure, and 2 schools, 1 local, 1 city center at a minimum. And then the shopping center, we won't need any of these. So that tells us that, what business are we doing? Then we pick a business and we say, okay, do we want to start with our refinery? If we do, okay, that's fine. Let's just say we started a different way. Let's say we started with food and alcohol. So we're going to build food and alcohol, and we're going to shoot for 100,000, or 100% efficiency. And we're going to go in here to our plan, and it's going to tell us we need 1,359 workers, plus a bunch of babies and projected students that will get dragged along with that. By the way, those numbers are just raw. I've got to work on refining those estimates. But it tells us how many people we're going to have to feed, what our cost per day is. Then we can go back here and look and see, are we going to make money? Well, sure we are. We just need $700,000 to pay, 700,000 rubles, excuse me, to pay for immigrating all these people, plus all the costs of building all this. So we only got, let's call it $1.5 million in cash. We got some dollars and some rubles. So this is going to be tight. We're probably not going to be able to build all this out, but we could build perhaps a 50% efficiency right off the bat, a little lower immigration costs, less people we have to get in. Maybe we could afford that, a little bit less flats because there's less people. So we could build out something like this. Did that come out less? Oh yeah, it came out a lot less. 17 flats or 11 or 12 flats or whatever. Yeah. So you can see how you may have to plan for your initial pass would be to say, okay, I'm only going to get 50% efficiency because I can't afford the full thing. But it'll kind of show you what you need to build to get that working, because I'm assuming that your support needs to be fully functional. Your support needs to be truly helping people, truly supporting and keeping people happy. Otherwise, all you're doing is paying for immigrants and then paying for them again as the other ones escape, and you get in this awful loop. So that's how you would use that for a startup. Now let's go back to our fabrics and clothing. And I do see one change I'm going to have to make. We're going to have to be able to do how many industries per line, because clothing, I can tell you, with the output of fabric and the output of clothing, you want 2 clothing factories for each fabric. Otherwise, you're going to have an inefficient system, or you're going to be shipping off some fabric for export, which you don't want to do. You want to ship clothes if you're going to export anything. So, fabric and clothes, that's going to be our industries. Our city plan is going to be, we're already using the other cinema. We've got a fire station, so we don't need that. We don't need a grocery because we're going to use the central. We don't need that. We do need a kindergarten. We need a couple of playgrounds. We don't need a pub. We do need one school. We don't need a shopping center. So there we go. So it tells us that to do this, we could have 4 of the large buildings, 1 of these. Is that at 100%? That's at 50%. And it's only going to cost us a couple $100,000. So let's go ahead and plan for 100% efficiency and see what that tells us. 7. So we're back to let's build 8 of these flats. So 8 flats should be great for supporting a fabric and a clothing. And we can look at the clothing and see the clothing needs 80 workers. So we could add another 80 workers. I have to do this in my head because the tool won't support it yet. But we could add another 80 workers, and what would that be? Oh, 7, 8. It's just building 8. I'll tell you what, we'll build 8 of these. No, we'll just build 9. We'll build 9 of these 150s, and that should give us an abundance of workers. And then eventually we'll build our university and siphon some of those workers off to go to university. All right, so 7, 8, 9 9 flats, and we can build 9 flats around one setup, so that should work great. So there's our plan. We've got our plan. Now, we want to put 9 flats, fabric, and clothing. And the fabric and clothing do not have to be walking distance of this flat, because we can, of course, bus people out to work. No problemo. We know that works. It's working beautifully right here in our refinery with its 473 workers. All right, so what do we want to do? Oh, these are different. Oh, look at this. We've got some new... Oh, these are different. Look at this. The flats have changed. We don't even have our 150 anymore. We've got 179, 189. How big is that? That's monstrously big. Yeah, I wonder if they could fit together any better than they used to. You know, you see that neat picture when the game starts up where you build that city and all those flats are kind of connected together, but you know you can't do that right now, and I think you should be able to. I think it'd look cool. All right, let's see. What are we going to do here? 150? Oh, let's use the 143. Is that the same building, basically? I think it is. We'll take the 143, and I said 9, so we're going to overkill, so this will probably be all right. And I'll have to adjust my spreadsheet, of course. It never ends. Once you go down this trap of building spreadsheets, you have taken on a lot of work. 1, 2. Good grief. Good grief, these things take up a lot of space. Look how wide that space is around that thing. Wow. Oh, and I meant to turn get citizens off. I actually prefer it off now. I'll show you what, because you can build these and then you can populate them as you want to, in the order you want to, and as your funds allow. It's a little more work, but it really is useful. So this will be... One, two, three, 4. Oh, come on. Five. That's 6. And we want 9. So we need our bus stations in the middle. I'm using small bus stations, but we're going to need 3 of them. I want to use 1 for work, 1 for passengers, 1 for... Do I? 1 for work. Oh, I'm sorry. Only 2. Good. 1 for work, 1 for passengers. Our students will stay local because we're going to have a school local and a kindergarten local. At least that's the model we're using for this one. And I think I am less than delighted by that right there. There. Okay, I want to make sure he can get to the bus stops. I'd like to get him, if this one can get all the way over here, that would be excellent. Or can he get to, well, look at that. He can actually walk to kindergarten or school at the other local one, so that might not be so bad. So he'll get there or he won't. Okay. So we need a school and a kindergarten. Those are bus lanes, really. That's not, we'll have to do it like this. We can put them in here like this. We should be able to fit some playgrounds, some football fields. Oh, come on, are you kidding? And we still need 3 more of these flats. And this guy can get everything he needs. This one can too. Okay, so they're all in walking distance of our whole community here. So we'll have a bus stop to go to work and a bus stop to go to downtown. And then we can put in our factories like maybe see what kind of fire we've got. See if it's something we have to deal with. Oh no, the school in Roback. And by the way, I meant to mention that I named this area Roback in order of Machik. And yes, Machik, I know that's mispronounced. That's your hillbilly name. But the fire's already out. But this new area right here is called Roback in his honor for inspiring me to go out and get more and more people in my oil refinery. All right. So where are we? So now we have our plan. We have our city built out. We got $1 million to play with. Let's put in the roads first. Okay. I'm going to put a sidewalk there just because I can see a path going across here that's going to link things up. In fact, I'm going to put a sidewalk here too because people might walk that way to get to the bus stop. And now I'm just going to paint these roads with sidewalk type streets. Oh, and I meant to set on auto build. The whole reason I was doing that so I wouldn't have to go back and do this, queue them up individually. Okay, we have roads. And I'm going to do these first, the bus platform, just because I want to make sure I specify them. This one is going to take you to work. And this one is going to take you, it'll be passengers going downtown. Okay. Now I've got some of these set. Some of these are automatically going to bring us people in, so boo on that. But let's get our infrastructure set first. Let's just build this stuff. We got money. But build our school, build our kindergarten. All right, this is getting a little bit long, so let's cut off part 8 right here In part 9, we'll finish off building out this city block and build our fabric and clothing industries and become clothing independent and start making some money on our clothing. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Workers and Resources Soviet Republic video. Thank you.